most of the Amish ones. Dylan was particularly gorgeous and well-built, and despite herself, she was still attracted to him. But it was a shallow attraction. The personality underneath his sublime surface was revolting. I must remember who he really is. She stepped away from the car. I'm not interested. Hopefully he would realize she wasn't just talking about going to a party. Alexis leaned farther out the window, the tight-fitting tank top she wore barely covering what it was supposed to. Are you sure you don't want to go? Remember all the fun we used to have? The uneasiness in the pit of Margaret's stomach grew. That was the problem. She did remember, in vivid detail, everything she had done during her rumspringa, and it filled her with shame. At first, she vowed not to go crazy like some of her peers had when they reached 16, the usual age of permitted freedom. But it hadn't taken long for her to succumb. Finally, she made her decision, determined to be a meek Amish woman like her mother and 3 older sisters. Like her mom always wanted her to be. Yet she had to admit that a small part of her still missed the English world. At least parts of it. Attending parties had been an opportunity to be with friends she'd made during her time in that world. There were good times when she snuck out for sleepovers with those friends. They'd have long talks in the middle of the night while they consumed junk food and had the TV on in the background. They mostly talked about boys and sometimes about the future, which Margaret had always been unsure about. She never brought up with anyone her hesitation to join the Amish church, especially with the party girls she hung out with. Just think about it, Alexis begged. Please? Against her better judgment, Margaret nodded once. She told herself she agreed so they would leave, but she was already thinking about the many times she used to sneak out of the house. She was an expert at it, and until that day 11 months ago, her parents and the rest of the community had never known that she was an excellent escape artist. After the humiliation of confessing and asking forgiveness in front of the church for rebelling, she vowed she would never rebel again. But here she was thinking about doing exactly that. Awesome. Dylan grinned as he sat back in his seat and shifted the car into drive. We'll pick you up at the usual spot around 9. Before Margaret could respond, he and Alexis sped off. Now she stood in her bedroom, several hours later, seriously tempted to betray her vow to the church and her own personal promise. Again. After 3 years of living with 1 foot in the English world and 1 foot in her Amish community, and due in no small part to her parents' strong encouragement, she had finally decided to join the church. And for the most part, she hadn't regretted that decision. During her rumspringa, she was far from God, and being a part of the church had drawn her closer to him. Yet she also couldn't deny that, at times, the English world still pulled at her. Margaret looked at the letter lying next to the English outfit. She knew the contents, having read them as soon as Alexis and Dylan left. If the outfit represented her past, the letter symbolized her present. Dear Margaret, thank you so much for the lovely pressed flower picture you sent me. I have it displayed in my bedroom on the dresser. The yellow, blue, and pink wildflowers are so beautiful, and the frame is remarkably simple and pretty. It looks like something I would buy in a store. Doris said that she told you about the mail-order bride advertisement that someone from our community put in the paper. We still don't know who put in the ad, but it certainly has had some repercussions. Some good. We've had 1 double wedding already. Do you remember the Bontrager family, the one with all the boys? The oldest twins got married. Then their oldest son also married, but not to a woman in Birch Creek. The downside is that now we have an overabundance of single females. That isn't all due to the advertisement, though. We've had 4 more families move to Birch Creek since you last visited, all who had mostly daughters. Of course, we still have a few bachelors left, but the tables have certainly turned. I hope someday we'll find out who put the ad in the paper. Of course, the 2 main suspects are Sevilla and Delilah, our local matchmakers, although no one will mention it within their hearing. But they seemed as puzzled as the rest of us, so they might not be involved. It would be nice to know the truth, but the culprit might always be a mystery. I hope you're doing well. Know that you're always welcome for another visit. I miss you. It was nice having another woman in the house now that Karen and Ivy are married and settled in with their own families. Feel free to come to Birch Creek anytime. You can stay as long as you like. Love, Auntie Mary. Margaret.